You're listening to The Okanagan Reader, where we present readings of short stories and other works that have been released under a Creative Commons license by their creators. You are free to listen to and share these readings as set out in their version of the Creative Commons license. Today's reading is part 6 of The Juniper Tree, written by John Kessel and narrated by Jim Bowering. It's a short story in the collection The Baum Plan for Financial Independence. And now, The Juniper Tree, Part 6, by John Kessel. Transformation. When Roz told Jack about Carrie's plans to meet the First Imprints Club, Jack picked up Carrie's pressure suit. He laid the suit on the floor, adjusted it so that the locator lay flat against the concrete, and ground his heel into it until the chip snapped. "Okay," Jack said. "You take his things and lose them someplace on the surface where they'll never be found." Roz knew that Jack's real reason for rushing her out was to keep her from seeing him dispose of Carrie's body. She did not object. She stuffed Carrie's clothes into the suit, sealed it up, and, while her father turned back to the body, headed for the airlock. "Wait," Jack said. "Take this." Fearfully, she turned. Jack had taken something from Carrie's hand. It was Carrie's ring. She shoved the ring inside her own suit, then hurried through the airlock onto the lunar surface. The shadows of lunar afternoon lay precisely as they had when she entered the lab an hour before. A girl seeking to apologize to her dad. Between then and now, something had broken. Jack had looked so surprised, so guilty, so old. The skin beneath his eyes was dark and papery, as if he hadn't slept in a week. Had he looked this tired when she had argued with him in the plaza? It made her wonder just what had been going on all this time. How could Jack kill Carrie? Had he been so near to breaking all along? As she shuffled across the humped, dusty surface, Roz fought to keep from crying again at the awfulness of Carrie's death and the precariousness of their situation. For most of her life, it had been just her and her father. Roz's mother, Helen, had been a graduate student in plant pathology when Jack met her at Purdue. Roz's first memory was of sitting in the bathtub as her mom taught her to count on her toes. When Roz was 6, her mother's increasing bouts of depression broke up the marriage. Helen had custody of Roz for more than a year before Jack rescued her, and Roz remembered that year vividly. Afternoons hanging out with the kids in the neighboring apartments, suppers of cornflakes, Helen coming back from her classes unhappy. Roz trying to wake Helen to get her to work in the mornings. Helen shouting at Jack every time he came to pick Roz up for visits. When Jack had stolen Roz away, though he never said anything bad about Helen, Roz felt that she would never miss her mother again. Now, Roz wished she knew where Helen was, what she was doing at just that moment. What had she gone through when she was 14? Nothing as bad as this. As she moved away from Fowler across the lunar surface, Roz tried to stay to the shadows, but there was little chance of anyone spotting her. What she needed to do was lose Carrie's suit somewhere that nobody was likely to find it for 30 or 40 years. It should not be so hard. These were the rumpled highlands, a landscape of hills, ridges, craters, and ejecta. Around the colony, the ground was scuffed with 1,000,000 boot prints. Roz hid hers among them, bouncing along below the eastern rim of Fowler. She then struck off along a side track of footprints that aimed northeast. A couple of kilometers along, she broke off from the path and made a long leap to a rock scarp uncovered with dust. She landed clumsily, but safe, and left no boot marks. She proceeded in this direction for some distance, aiming herself from rock to rock to leave as few footprints as possible. The short horizon made Roz feel as if she was a bug on a plate nearing the edge of the world. She kept her bearings by periodically noting some point ahead and behind so that she would not get lost. That was the biggest danger of surface hopping, and the source of the rule against ever doing it alone. It would be easy to explain Carrie's disappearance as an intoxicated boy getting lost and running out of air, a broken radio, a faulty locator. A kilometer on, Roz found a pit behind a group of ejecta boulders. Deep in the shadow on the north side of the largest, she dug away the top layer of regolith and stuffed the suit into the pit. She shoved the dirt back over the suit. By the time she was done, her hands were freezing. She stood back on a boulder and inspected the spot. She had kept most of the scuff she'd created to the shadows, which would not change much for some time in the slow lunar day. Roz headed back along the path she had come, rock to rock, taking long strides in the low gravity until she met the traveled path again. Up above her, a third of the way across the black sky from the sun, angry Mars gleamed beside Jupiter like an orange eye. Her air supply was in the red when she reached Fowler's North Lock. She was able to pass through without seeing anyone. The festival was still going strong. Roz stowed her suit in an empty locker, set the combination, and walked back around the rim toward Eva's apartment. The long way, making a three-quarter circuit of the crater. On the southeast slope she stopped and watched the lights of the festival. When she finally got home, she found an empty glass sitting on the living room floor, and the door to Jack and Eva's room was closed. She went to her own room, closed her door, undressed. There, she found Carrie's ring in her pocket, warm from the heat of her own body. Through all of Eva's quizzing of Roz the next morning, Jack sat drinking juice, ignoring them both. Roz was stunned by how calm he looked. What went on inside? She had never thought that there might be things going on inside her father that were not apparent on the surface. Then the searches began. Over and over, Roz had to retell her story of parting with Carrie at the festival. At just what time had she last seen Carrie? What had Carrie said? In what direction had Carrie gone? Jack threw himself into the search, but whenever Roz looked at him, she saw that he was watching her. As the search stretched beyond the first days, Carrie's friends came up and sympathized with Roz. For the first time, kids who had held her at arm's length confided in her. They shared their shock and grief. Roz supposed that, from the outside, her own terror looked like shock. Colony Security used volunteers from the school in the searches, and Roz took part, though never in the northeast quadrant. Every time one of the parties returned, she was petrified that they would have Carrie's pressure suit. Near the end of the third day, Roz was sitting in the apartment clutching Carrie's ring in her hand when Jack brought Eva back with him. Eva was so sick, Jack almost had to prop her up. Jack fed Eva, made her take some pills, and go to sleep. He came out of their room and shut the door. "What happened?" Roz asked. Jack pulled Roz away from the door. "I caught Eva on the edge of a precipice. I think she was about to jump off." "Oh, Jesus, what are we going to do?" "She'll be okay after she gets some rest. We need to take care of her." "Take care of her? We killed her son." "Keep your voice down. Nobody killed anyone. It was an accident." "I don't think I can stand this, Dad." "You're doing fine, Roz. I need you to be my strong girl. Just act normal." Just act normal. Roz tried to focus on school. The hockey game against Shackleton was postponed, but the practices continued. When it became obvious that Carrie wasn't coming back, Mary Jane moved up to take Carrie's place in Roz's line. At night, Roz squeezed her eyes shut, pressed her palms against them to drive thoughts of Carrie's body from her imagination. She would not talk to Jack about it, and in his few hurried words with her, he never spoke of that night. Roz hated hearing the sound of Jack's voice when he talked to Eva or anyone else, so casually modulated, so sane. Just act normal. When he spoke with Roz, His voice was edged with panic. Roz vowed that she would never in her life have two voices. Maybe Eva had two voices, too. After the searches were ended, Eva seemed distressingly normal. Roz could tell Eva was upset only by the firmness with which she spoke, as if she were thinking everything over 2 or 3 times, and by the absolute quality of her silences. At first, Roz was afraid to be around Eva. She seemed so in control. Yet Roz could tell that at some level Eva was deeply wounded in a way she could not see in Jack. The only word Roz could think of to describe Eva was a word so absurdly old-fashioned that she would have been embarrassed to say it aloud. Noble. Eva was the strongest person Roz had ever met. It made Roz want to comfort her, but Roz was too afraid. The weeks passed, and they resumed a simulation of ordinary life. Eva took an interest in Roz that she had not while Carrie was still alive. For Roz's second semester practicum, Eva arranged for Roz to work successive months in the colony's 4 materials cooperatives: air, water, agriculture, and fabrication. Roz was glad to spend more time out of the apartment.